Every time someone buys a digital product or a subscription in your app, Apple or Google takes between 15% and 30% of the revenue. Someone might think that this is fair because, in the end, we use their platform to deliver our app. But after months of development, marketing effort, and investment, those can feel unfair, right? Hey everyone, I'm Alexa, CTO and co founder at Ethereus. Over the years, we worked on numerous mobile app projects, and on many of them, we've designed and implemented payment systems which helped businesses maximize their revenue while staying compliant with Apple and Google policies. In this video, I'm going to break down everything that you need to know about App Store fees, how much they are, when they apply, and most importantly, how to avoid paying them more than you actually need. So, let's get started. On the Apple side of things, the first thing that you need is the Apple Developer Program, and that costs $99 per year. Then, when you actually make some money through the App Store, Apple usually takes 30% on paid apps and on digital goods or services. That actually drops to 15% if you qualify for the App Store Small Business Program, or if you're in certain partner programs like Video, Mini App, or News. And for auto renewable subscription, Apple takes 30% for the first year and then 15% after the customer has been subscribed for more than 1 year. But with Google Play, things are a little bit more complicated. And this is the part where I want you to pay close attention because Google has changed its pricing model quite recently. And a lot of the videos out there are already outdated. Just like the Apple, you first need a developer account to actually publish your apps. The difference is that Google charges a one time registration fee of $25. So, after you've paid it once, you're done. For years, Google's pricing was pretty straightforward. You paid 15% on your first 1 million in annual revenue and then 30% on everything above that. But that's no longer the complete picture. Since the end of June 2026, Google has introduced a new fee structure for developers distributing apps in the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. Instead of one simple commission, Google now splits it into two separate fees: a service fee and a billing fee. If you're selling subscriptions and you're using Google's own checkout system, you'll pay a 10% of service fee plus a 5% of billing fee, which means that the total is still 15%. So, in practice, not much has changed for subscription apps. However, one time purchases are now a little bit more complicated. So, if the purchase comes from a new install, Google charges a 15% service fee. If it comes from an existing install, the service fee increases to 20%. And in both cases, if you're using Google's billing system, you will also need to pay an additional 5% of the billing fee. One important thing to remember here is that the new pricing model does not apply everywhere yet. So, if your app is distributed outside of the US, UK, and the EU, most developers are still using Google's previous pricing model with the familiar 15% of the 1 million and then 30% of everything above that. Google has said that these changes will be introduced gradually, with more regions expected to transition throughout the 2027. Before I explain how you can avoid paying those App Store fees, I have one quick favor to ask. A huge percentage of the people watching this channel still aren't subscribed. So, if you find this kind of content useful and you'd like us to keep creating more videos like this, take a second and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us grow the channel and continue making content for developers, CTOs, and mobile teams just like yours. And here's the most important part: how to avoid those App Store fees. The main issue is actually pretty simple. So, the moment you use Apple or Google's built in payment system, they take percentage out of every transaction. So, if you want to keep more of the revenue, the goal is to avoid their payment flow whenever that's possible and allowed by their policies. You can use a third party provider and let users purchase the subscription or a service outside of your app. Yeah, you actually heard that right. Instead of paying inside the app, Users complete the purchase on your website and then simply sign into the app and access for everything they pay for. So instead of paying inside the app, users complete the purchase on your website and then simply sign into the app and access everything they've paid. A great example of that is Netflix. You actually can't subscribe for the Netflix inside the Netflix app. Instead, you create your account and pay on the Netflix website. So once that's done, you open the app, log in, and enjoy the premium experience. Spotify actually works in a very similar way. So when your subscription is purchased and managed outside of the app, while the app itself is just a place where you simply listen to your music. This approach allows companies to avoid paying App Store commissions on those subscription payments while still providing the full premium experience inside the app. For handling payments outside of the app, there are two solutions which we typically recommend to our clients. First one is Stripe. Stripe is a great choice for most of the apps because it supports a lot of international payment methods and it's also pretty easy to plug into websites, which makes it a really solid option. Another big reason people like Stripe is that its fees are usually lower than what you pay through Apple or Google. The exact fee depends on the country and the payment methods, but in many cases it's around 2.9% plus a small fixed fee per every transaction. The downside is that Stripe is not available everywhere, so depending on your country, that might be a limitation. And yes, you will usually need a developer to integrate it properly because it's not a no code kind of thing. Second option we recommend to our clients is PayPal. PayPal is especially useful if you have a global audience because people already trust it and a lot of users like it since they don't have to type in their card details every time. They just log in and confirm the payment. The biggest downside is that PayPal is usually a bit more expensive than Stripe. So fees typically range from 2.99% to 3.49%, depending on the country. And another thing to keep in mind is that transfers to your banks can sometimes take a few days. But at the end of the day, the right choice depends on your specific projects. It's up to you to decide which solution makes the most sense. Now, here's the part that actually matters the most. Can you legally send users outside of the app to pay instead of using Apple's or Google's checkout? The short answer is yes, in many use cases. But it depends on the platform, your user's location, and the latest developers' policies. So let's start with Google Play. For the most of the developers, Google now allows alternative billing. That means that you can process payments through your own website or payment provider instead of Google's checkout. If you do, you avoid the 5% billing fee, although the service fees will still apply. Apple, however, is a bit more complicated. On top of that, following the 2025 Epic Games court ruling, Apple now has to allow apps on the US App Store to include links that send users to an external checkout. However, Apple is still appealing parts of that decision, and the future rules could change, including the possibilities of reduced commissions on those external purchases. It's also important to remember that this only applies to the US App Store. The EU has its own rules. While in most other regions, linking users to an external payment page from inside the app is still generally not allowed. This is one of the fastest changing areas in mobile development, and the rules can change while you're building your app. As a mobile app development company, we're always happy when we can help our clients solve not only technical problems, but also bigger business challenges behind them. And this is the reason why we made this video. I hope it helped you understand how to design a payment system that can maximize your profitability. See you next time.